Welcome back to the Marathon Mortgage Happy Hour. This is now the third take, and I'm going to get it right this time. So, I'm Mike Witzak, and this is
Rory Farrell.
And today we are just going over, we're doing this a little earlier in the week than normal, but we wanted to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. We have a special beer here, and we have some also kind of time-sensitive market updates that we're going to be bringing on a special guest for. So let's jump into the beer first, and then we'll jump into the special guest and what we got to come.
Cool. You brought a crowler today from Black Forest Brewery out in Lancaster. You were out that way this weekend.
Yep.
And because it's St. Patty's Day week, you decided that Shamrocks and Shenanigans is a good one to do.
Yeah.
It's an Irish Red Ale, 4.9%, although the website says it's 6.8%. So
it's very early in the day, so who knows what's to come.
Goes.
Yeah.
But, we'll pop it.
Okay. It's very iced tea looking beer.
Yeah, we'll pretend
You wanna-
we missed it.
Tom's at the door waiting. Here he comes.
You're not on yet.
Okay.
The special guest.
Back here, watch what you do.
All right.
So yeah, Irish Red Ale, a very traditional English
Yeah.
Irish style. You're not going to find this in a lot of craft breweries, but I don't know if you guys can see, but it's a red, like you said, iced tea.
Yeah, iced tea
color.
looking.
It's going to be really mellow, palatable. Nothing
Smells
crazy
like a
about
beer.
it. Smells like beer.
It smells like beer.
Yeah.
So-
And just the way that they make it red is just a normal pale ale, just made with some different grains that causes more of a red hue, but really basic. Kind of the most common industry one is
Yeah.
Smittix, which I'm sure people have seen, and I'm sure
Yeah.
they'll see it this Friday. So,
Cool.
yeah, cheers.
All right. Cheers, brother.
And as we said, we're going to do things a little differently today. Typically, we get into industry stuff and some of our wins for the week, so on and so forth. But a lot's been going on this week, and even the past few weeks with the Fed, SVP, the bond market, and our resident expert on all that stuff is Tom Howe, the owner of our company, the president of our company.
Yep.
And there's really no one better to kind of get in front of the camera and talk about this subject and boil it down to something that people can really digest pretty easily. So,
Yeah, kind of all the financial things I know came from Tom himself. So if there's anybody better to teach you, I wouldn't know who that is. So I think it's a guy staring at us behind the camera right now. So we're going to cut. We're going to get him mic'd up, and maybe we'll get him to maybe take a sip of beer too. So we'll see. We'll see what's to come. But here we go.
hang tight. We'll be back in a minute.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right,
Good.
cool.
All right, welcome back to the Marathon Mortgage Happy Hour. Happy St. Patty's Day. As we mentioned, Tom Howe, the owner and president of our company, is on with us. I think it's fair to say that you are a finance and economics nerd.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So as long as we have the right person in the seat next to me to talk about this, what we'd like you to talk about a little bit is about what's been happening with the Fed and just our industry in general over the past couple weeks. I know anecdotally we saw rates drop a little bit yesterday, where they were a little bit higher last week. And maybe some of the factors that go into that, what the Fed talked about over the past couple of weeks. And I think the common misconception is that the Fed directly decides what mortgage interest rates are going to be. And so when people see that the Fed is raising rates 0.5%, the public automatically thinks mortgage interest rates are going to jump 0.5 point, which is not the case. So maybe you can kind of speak a little bit to that. And before you even get into that, say who you are, how long you've been with Marathon, how long you've been in the industry, and just kind of give a quick intro.
Yep. So Tom Howell, I've been with Marathon. I started here as an employee back in 2000, and now I'm the owner of the company. And I'm a finance and economics nerd, like Rory said. One of the biggest misconceptions is that people do look at the Fed and what the Fed does, and when they're raising rates, and think that that directly correlates into mortgage rates going up.
Something I hear literally every week.
Yep, and that is not the case. So interest rates move up based on the economy and basically inflation. So recently there's been a lot of inflation in our economy, and because there's that inflation, the Federal Reserve has been raising rates that they control. They control prime rates, which is like a credit card. They control something called the discount rate, something called the Fed funds rate, which get a little more confusing. But they have these rates that they control, and by raising these rates, it is felt that they can slow the economy and slow inflation. So as they raise rates, they expect that there's job loss. As there's job loss, the economy starts to slow. People don't spend as much money. So the idea of the Fed raising rates is to slow inflation. the more inflation there is, the higher the rates go. So I've been waiting for the period where this happens kind of at the end of every Fed, I wouldn't say that's exactly true, but typically I would guess at the end of a Fed rate hike cycle, there becomes a point where the Fed is still raising rates, but the market views it as if they don't need to raise them anymore. The market views it as if they have things under control. So when the Fed goes out there and raises rates, it can actually cause rates to come down. We're getting very, very close to that. Over the next 2 meetings, the Fed was expected to raise rates to further slow the economy. And I feel like the market was starting to view it like, hey, you've done your job already, inflation is starting to come down. And that is something that can lead to lower rates. So there's times when the Fed actually raises rates and then they've overdone their job and rates come down.
So what you're saying is they don't directly correlate all the time.
Exactly, and they can be the inverse.
Sure.
Yep. So this week, SVB kind of complicated that a little bit. Not to dive into that whole thing, but SVB did complicate it. So now
You'll get into that on your TED Talk next
Yeah,
episode.
there you
Perfect.
go.
All right, cool.
Yep. So as now the Fed's kind of like in a little bit of a box. They don't know if they can raise rates or not. So the next meeting, it's more expected that they probably won't do anything. Maybe if they do raise, they'll only raise a quarter, which hopefully maybe gets us close to the period where we're done with Fed raising, but inflation's the big thing. If inflation stays persistent, then the Fed's going to have to get in and continue to raise rates. Aside from what the Fed does, the market and people who are investing in the market and buying bonds can control the direction of interest rates. So you could buy a mortgage-backed security, you could buy a mortgage-backed security, you could buy a mortgage-backed security, you could go on Wall Street and buy a mortgage-backed security. At the moment, what's happening is people are buying mortgage-backed securities because they're nervous of the stock market. So because of the fear of these, or because of bank failures, it created what's called a flight to quality, where people all of a sudden decided, hey, maybe I don't want to be in stocks. Maybe I want to buy bonds, which are a very secure
Yeah, a little less
investment.
risky.
And the more people that buy bonds, the lower the rates go. So it's a confusing time right now to kind of pick a direction of where rates are going to go.
And no one's got a crystal ball. Yeah, we tell that to people every day.
For sure.
But
Yep.
I think the point is that people will come to us often and be like, you got to lock this in because the Fed's meeting tomorrow and they're going to raise rates a half a point. And we have this conversation often, and it may not always mean directly that rates are going to go up, and certainly not that they're going to jump up by a half a point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's much more, like today CPI came out, Consumer Price Index. That has a big impact on what happens with rates. And there's these economic indicators that come out weekly. And these economic indicators tell us how the economy's doing and give us a better sense of the direction of rates.
Cool. Well, without overwhelming anyone else, we'll cut it there, but and I'm sure we'll have you on again as the next couple things happen in the industry and in the market. So again, Tom Howe, Marathon Mortgage, owner, president, and really just overall awesome boss. So thanks for having us on, or thanks for being on, and we'll see you soon.
Enjoy your beers.
Yep.
He's the owner of Marathon Mortgage Happy Hour, too.
Yeah, apparently.